Let's get opinions from publicaddress.net headman. It is Russell Brown, the Hard News blog there. Morning, Russell.
Good morning.
Good morning. This morning so far on the show, we have been talking about what should have been the government's week from hell, but the ever-optimistic John Key doesn't seem to think so. In fact, he hasn't actually been around, really, has he?
No. And I actually wrote a blog post on Monday called The Politics of Absence. And I kind of think that's what we've seen. There's some real power in the way that the people managing John Key have, and his communications have basically managed to take politics out of the picture. And I thought the Prime Minister's hour on Radio Live last Friday was the perfect example of that.
Well, the radio station gave them the opportunity.
Yeah, good luck to them. It was actually a good get for them.
Yeah.
I've kind of got no real quibble with Radio Live there. But it did start to get kind of bizarre when we had the news come through on the show of a second ratings agency downgrade, and the Prime Minister said, "This is the Prime Minister's hour. We're here to have fun."
It was almost, was it a little bit like, I mean, it's not quite the same, but when Bush got the message that the planes had hit the towers, but he was reading, was he not, he was reading to
my pet goat. Please do not have me making 9/11 comparisons.
No, I won't, but yeah, there's
Someone
something
will
there.
quote me.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's the Prime Minister's hour and we're having fun. I just thought that was and also, there's something sort of constitutionally bizarre about the Prime Minister promising to talk to someone important about the scheduling of Coronation Street.
Yeah.
He can't do that. His government ordered TVNZ, which is a Crown company, to maximise profits, and there he was, idly offering to impair it in the duty he had given it.
Yeah.
It's just, bah.
Yeah.
But it's incredibly effective.
It is incredibly effective for middle New Zealand, I suppose. But, I mean, getting back to the big issues last week, you had the tragic death in Afghanistan of the SAS soldier and the questioning of the SA's role there, plus the double downgrade, and then he doesn't turn up to the weekly press conference where the press really get to grill him. Yeah,
because he was late coming back from the rugby league, where he sat watching with his mate, the Mad Butcher.
Yeah.
And of course, the Herald on Saturday had a raging editorial about Darian Fenton being mad about, the Labour MP being mean about the Mad Butcher, which was unwise, certainly didn't help her party, but I don't know whether it was the most important thing to be writing an editorial about that morning.
But so it's been left up to the Deputy Prime Minister, the Finance Minister, to play the bad cop in all this.
Yes. Yeah, and just to really put a nice little finish on it, when the Prime Minister does turn up, he will be in front of an Australian flag because of a bet he made with the Australian Prime Minister over the result of the league. It just starts to get really trivial.
Silly games, eh?
It is. It's kind of, but it works incredibly well, and it is basically capitalising on their biggest electoral asset, which is the popularity of John Key.
Yeah.
So you can see why they're doing it. And it's not as if the gallery weren't roused over this one. John Hartevelt, who works for Fairfax, wrote a furious blog post on the day saying, this is just a bad joke. And then if you looked at the comments underneath their blog, basically everyone was saying, wake up and smell the roses, you're a misery guts, don't whine, and also, it sounds like you reckon it should be all doom and gloom, boring politics. Yeah, and that's kind of what's going on here. Don't talk about politics.
Yeah, because we're having a good time.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, last night there was a meeting of the Auckland City Council to discuss the extra funding for the World Cup party zones. Yeah, which I think, I'm kind of glad that it was only on Len Brown's casting vote that they did approve a further $1.5 million for Rugby World Cup facilities, chiefly new fan zones, because people are actually turning out to these things, and I think it's incumbent on the council to actually provide for public demand. Drop in the bucket, really, isn't it? It is, yeah. It's not a whole lot of money compared to what we've already spent, but I thought the most interesting thing was councillors finally getting a chance to let rip on Murray McCulley. And Arthur Anai, former National MP, called Murray McCulley an idiot.
Oh. they were obviously furious about about that stunt press conference in the first week of the tournament.
Yeah, so this is the first opportunity they've had to talk about it since then, isn't it?
Yes,
Okay.
because they all had to behave themselves at the special committee meeting that week. But I think they're sort of justifiably furious.
Wow.
And because the thing is that, and it did surprise me how many journalists took it at face value, the idea that Murray McCulley was in fact taking over just because he'd said he was, and he hasn't. And that was obvious because the council actually runs all these things.
Yeah.
And what you've seen is someone from MED fielding questions, but it is still basically the council that has to make sure this works, and that's what they've been doing. So there was, from Arthur and I and John Walker and a few other people, quite a resistance to what they saw as bailing out the government. I think, the government, the council really had no choice but to do this. But it's interesting seeing them vent about the minister.
Indeed. Okay, moving on from that to another post that you did this week, and also it's coming up on the Media 7 show, this issue of Facebook and privacy.
Yeah, I mean, people are... I'm not a huge Facebook user, I'm there fairly passively, but regular Facebook users have been up in arms about the latest set of changes to the interface, including the timeline, which basically, shows everyone else everything else you're doing.
Yeah.
Turns out actually much worse than that, because as a Australian blogger called Nick Kabrulovich has discovered, Facebook was tracking your web use even when you were logged out.
So this is using cookies on your computer?
Using cookies, using a tracking cookie, and that tracking cookie still applied even when you were logged out of Facebook. It was still tracing what you were doing on the internet. And he has actually known about this for about a year. He's been trying to talk to Facebook about it, and they didn't do anything basically until he went public with it, at which point they went to the Australian Privacy Commissioner, who expressed some concern and said, it's all fixed. Turns out actually it's not. The tracking cookies are back on, and rather more damningly, someone else has discovered a patent to do exactly what they've been doing, which they have been telling everyone was a technical flaw, and they've fixed it. There is a patent to do what they've been doing in Facebook's name. So it's kind of, I really think there are some questions to answer, and Nick is going to be on Media 7 this week. We're recording it this evening. Yeah. He'll be on along with Ben Gracewood, and I think that should be pretty interesting, actually.
And there's also, they're going to be introducing the feature where you could go to websites, not even push a like button on their website, but that website might show up on your timeline.
Exactly. Frictionless sharing.
Wow.
And you do, there's a point at which you do have to approve that. And with the first couple, including the Guardian Facebook app, you'll have noticed if you follow a link to a Guardian story from Facebook this week, you're invited to log into something.
Okay.
And you can just click cancel and not do that, and just look at the Guardian website as you normally would. But people are being encouraged to sign up for the Guardian Facebook app. And when you do that, you click a box saying that the app can send everything you're doing to your news feed, which is not exactly probably what most people want, and could actually really constitute a serious breach of privacy.
Absolutely. The Guardian needs to watch out they don't get a backlash.
Yeah, exactly. And they've been pretty careful about it. I think the first two out the gate have been quite careful about it, them and the Washington Post. But it's easy to see that that future companies that take this social news route with Facebook may not necessarily be so careful, and they may obscure what's going on, and some of them may actually be things like porn sites.
Indeed.
You still have to approve it, but people often don't know what they're saying yes to on the internet. So.
Indeed. Well, that's Media 7 after 9 o'clock on Thursday, but also on Thursday you've got the Late at the Museum at Auckland Museum.
Yes, yeah. Life on the Margins, Otherness in New Zealand. This is the first Late at the Museum that I've ever curated, and it's kind of exciting. We've got Philip Paxton, David Cohen, Jacinda Ardern, and we were to have Stacey Karapa-Huata, who's an extraordinary transgender New Zealander with an amazing story. Unfortunately, her mother has just died. But Ella Henry, who has an interesting past of her own, has kindly agreed to step in. So I'm quite excited about that.
And is Jacinda on the outside?
Well, Jacinda actually, not a lot of people know this, but she grew up Mormon.
Ah.
So she has her own story of exclusion or marginalisation. So that, and also she's got a political dimension to talk about. After the talk, there is a show with Buckwheat and Tess Tickle, Auckland's best-known drag queens, called This Is Where We Came From, where they will begin the performance as men and finish it as glorious drag queens.
Wow.
Which I think will be amazing.
Yeah.
And probably quite moving as well, because they're going to be pretty frank. And also, Christoph El Truento, the production genius behind the At Peace record.
Cool.
Will be there with a band.
Wow, that's going to be heaps. Is that in the foyer area?
It's in the foyer and upstairs in the event centre.
And tickets are from where?
Tickets from aucklandmuseum.com/late. Or if you can't get around to getting a ticket, you can just roll up at the door at 6:30.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Russell.
Righto.
Cheers. See ya.
Yep.
Publicaddress.net in the meantime as well.